All right, peace, family. Assalamu alaikum, and welcome back to the STEM Files. We are the voice, and we serve as the voice of STEM talent and Black culture. Tonight's episode, we're going to be building with um, OG guest, a STEM Files alumni. He's coming back to the platform, Brother Victor Muhammad. We're going to be looking back at HIV treatment. We're going to be talking about interferon in the United States government. We'll be talking about working with other Black scientists, understanding biotech as a good thing. Is science racist, and why aren't there more Brother Victors? Stay tuned, family, for more after this. Actually, Jabril, go ahead and keep the show going, bro.
Okay, yes, sir. Ready to align. All right. So, family, as we continue and move forward, I'm very excited to be here. And as we mentioned, our brother, being a alumni of the show, we're going to get into some very, very interesting topics. I am Jabril Muhammad, aka Jabrilian Engineer. I'm a civilian mechanical engineer with a focus on naval ship fluid systems and a background in material science and engineering, the study of the various material classes and how those materials can be used in certain applications to make things stronger, faster, lighter, more effective, and efficient. Also, as brother opened up, Brother Tariq Muhammad, aka Tariq, cardiac and biomedical research scientist with a background in cardiovascular pathobiology, the study of how diseases form in the heart and blood vessels. Again, so excited, family, to get into tonight's discussion. And inshallah, we will have a beautiful discussion. So as we continue, we want to just get into just bringing our brother on and just kind of having him go into a bit about himself and what it is that he plans to bring to tonight's discussion. So as we continue, without further ado, Brother Victor, thank you so much for coming on. It's good to see you. And please go ahead and tell us a bit about yourself as we get this conversation started.
Sure. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. My name is Victer Muhammad. I am an agricultural and biomedical research scientist. I have worked for the last 40 years. This makes my 40th year as an agricultural research scientist and my 33rd year as a biomedical research scientist. I've worked according to the Western world, not so much me, but according to the Western world, I've worked at the best institutions that they have. I've worked with people that you see on television on a daily basis. I know them and they know me. I respect them and they respect me, so we don't clash.
Yes, sir.
The only time I will speak on a personality is when that personality and what they've done is deleterious to the greater good. And at that point, then it has to be personal, not personal. I have to recite that personality because no one individual is greater than the common need of the greater good. And that is a principle that the African American will have to learn if he intends to remain on the planet. The planet is designed to remove anything or anyone that goes into conflict with divine order.
Come on.
So that's me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And before we get and there's just so much to unpack just from what brother
from what he said.
Right, just from that. So we're gonna go more into that after this, family.
You believe in these false prophets, I say I bet he lying. No football, New York City Giants. Girl dad, rest in peace to Kobe Bryant. When we teaching our babies, we teach them heavy science. Heavy science. Heavy science. When we teaching our women, we teach them heavy science. Heavy science. Heavy science. When we teach men, we teach them heavy
right, family. Oh, welcome back to the STEM Files. We service once again the voice of STEM talent and Black culture. Jabril, just go ahead and say what you just texted me about the intro, bro. Just go ahead and say it.
Oh, yes, sir. I had
Yes.
to say, did y'all see that intro, family? Before we get into did y'all
Beautiful,
see
right?
that intro? Brother
Praise
Tariq
be
is
to
going
Allah.
crazy. Beautiful, beautiful intro. I was like, oh, that's hard. Praise be to Allah.
Praise be to
Yes,
Allah.
sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, I always like to you know, really highlight the most magnificent parts of our guest life because there's so much history to unpack with Brother Victor. He is severely, severely, severely underrated as a contributing person to our society, both the Nation of Islam and the general Black community. So I wanted to shed some light on his work, his history, and everything that he has done to uplift Black people as a whole with his talents and his mind. Um, One of the things that resonated with me when you opened up was that you've worked with many people, some of them more notable than others. Can you tell us about some of the people that you've worked with that the general population may know about offhand?
Well, I will mention one or two of them, and the reason I won't mention more is because I maintain that relationship with them because I permit them to remain in anonymity.
Yes, sir.
And there are many things that I don't know. And some of these people, I can pick up my phone and call them, and they'll answer my call. Or if I send them a text message or send them an email, and I say, hey, Doc, I got a question about something, and I need your advice. And they will say, well, what is this? What is it, Victor? And they'll respond to me. They are part of the West. I'm not. And as a result, I have to permit them to maintain their functionality within the West. When I say the West, I mean the Caucasian world, and which includes America and her systems and governments. And they are still in it, some of them. And so one of the persons with whom I worked and interacted was Dr. Ben Carson. We were at Johns Hopkins Med School together.
Nice.
I wasn't in med school. I was doing glaucoma research. But we were two of the only Black men there in a professional capacity. I worked with Dr. Fauci back in 1990, 1991. His lab developed some medications for HIV, and we collaborated with them on injecting those medications in severe combined immunodeficient mice to see what the outcome of those medications would be on those mice. So that's two people that the world knows. And I mention them because I don't have a relationship with them. See.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. You never want to, especially if you're going to talk about somebody and how you know them, you always want to, of course, clear with them first. And I'm not saying this to you. I'm saying this to the audience, just in general. You know, we're not big on disrespecting someone's. It's a word I'm looking for. Jabril, help me out. Not integrity, but
Their character.
Character, right? Their character or their professionalism, or their yeah. Let's just go with character. And we are, you know, well versed and we understand how important it is to maintain those relationships, especially if you eventually want to return or work with them again. You know, you always want to keep those bridges connected. But working with Dr. Fauci, you know, and the medication that he was developing for HIV. At that particular time, what were some of the things that you noticed that would um, not necessarily harm people, but what were some of the things that you noticed that okay, somewhere down the line, this may be no good as a treatment anymore?
Well, any medication, regardless of who develops it, has deleterious effects. Even no matter which medication it is, it's always going to have more negative or more costs than it's going to have benefits. So any person needs to understand that about medication. So you should always be reluctant and apprehensive about putting any medicine in your body, regardless of who developed it. Your father could have developed it, but if it's
Right.
medicine, but if it's medicine, then you must understand that the cost benefit factor is always going to be greater in the cost when it comes to medicine. So, as it was with Dr. Fauci's shop, they developed some nuclear medicine, and they sent it over to our lab because we had the animal models. We had mice that were severely immunodeficient. We had beige nude XID mice, which means the mice didn't have hair and they were extremely immunodeficient. No T cells, no B cells, no NK cells. So if you're going to test a drug for its efficacy, when you consider um, um, the functionality against a virus like the human immunodeficiency virus, then those are some great models. And even the medications that are on the market today for treating HIV, uh, the combination drugs, yes, they do suppress viral load, but what do they do to the immune system? I've had some
Mm,
interactions in the last few years with people who came to me, and yes, the viral load was gone, but I don't think they had any T cells. So, how can you function in a normal environment without T cells? So,
right.
sure, you got your viral load suppressed and you walking around every day, but what if a fly lands on you?
Mm,
It could
it
literally
could take
kill
you
you.
up.
Yeah.
Right, 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 right. Mm. And you made a very valid point. Just because you have something that could go after the virus itself does not mean that it won't do something harmful to the primary immune system, because you always want to keep that intact. Jabril, do you have anything real quick before we move on?
As a you know uh, member, as an engineer and one who's not in the life sciences, whenever I'm get engaged in these conversations, I always try to like perk my ears up to specific terms. And I love how you talked about the reduction of the viral load. Okay, we're diminishing, from my understanding, the viral presence, but we're potentially either ill affecting or not affecting your body's natural immunodefense. So at that point, yes, maybe there's potentially less of, or the virus doesn't present as much in your body. But what has been done by that medication to your body's natural immune response? And that's a really good conversation to have, because whether we're talking about the pandemic or just in general, your body's made to do a very natural thing, which is fight off enemy combatants. And
Right.
when you get to the point where you're unable to do that, you know, have we reached diminishing returns when it talks about the how effective a potential medication is? So thank you for bringing that up, and that really kind of got my wheels turning as far as like how we continue this conversation.
Absolutely. And before we continue, bro, can you tell us what tonight's show, or who tonight's show is in dedication to? We got two people that we want to recognize, not so much their deaths, but their contributions to our culture and us as a people. So we want to go and acknowledge, and may Allah be pleased with our brother Jim Brown. He recently passed away. Was it
Yes, sir.
last week or earlier this week? I can't recall, but For those who don't know, Jim Brown was very pivotal in, um, and I'm sure our brother, our guest, can attest to this as well. He was very pivotal in the role of getting the black athlete to stand up for his people, straight up. He was one of those first groups of black athletes to really say, I am more than just a football player, a basketball player, a boxer, along with Muhammad Ali and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and those in that class. And Jabril, who's the other one we want to pay tribute to?
Also want to pay tribute to our sister, icon, artist, Sister Tina Turner,
Right,
who also passed, I believe. And again, this is very recent.
right,
It's
2 days
not.
ago.
It was 2 days ago, right? So it
Hmm.
is crazy because recently I feel like I've been seeing a lot of actors or former entertainers or people, pass, and it's like kind of hard to keep up. But our sister Tina Turner, a definite icon for in the entertainment industry, but also just in general in terms of the black home and what she meant to us, as a people. So we definitely a lot of pleased with our sister. And the best we talk about remembering people, giving them their flowers. The best way to give people their flowers if they're no longer here is to continue to do the work and
Right,
to extend whatever it is you do of substance for your people and people in general, to extend your reach and make sure that their story continues to be told, but also you lengthen your story not for self-aggrandizement, but for the benefit of yourself, your family, your community, your people, and really the whole of humanity at that point. So, our hearts go out to the
absolutely.
families. And again, may Allah be pleased and may Allah not withhold from us their reward. And our brother Jim Brown and our sister Tina Turner.
Absolutely. Thank you. Very well said, bro. And it actually brings me to a question I have for brother Victor. You said that the best way to honor anyone or honor uh, someone's work is to continue to do your work, not for self-aggrandizement, but for the betterment of our people. Brother Victor, how have you grown into humility in your profession? Because we have a lot of those of us who have a certain level of knowledge, especially in the sciences, they tend to be a little bit arrogant and not able to separate or not able to remove themselves from their work and be a little bit more for who the work is for, right? So can you talk more about your humility, talk about how you've been able to use your gifts in science to further uh, the cause of seeing a healthier black nation?
Um, there are very few black people really in science where it is of consequence. Just because a misnomer in the Western world is that if you're really smart, then you should become a scientist. So
Mm,
if you make all A's and you go to Harvard and you become magna cum laude of your Harvard med school class or your Princeton med school class, then you should go to the NIH or some institution and become a scientist. And that's not accurate. That's not true. Just because you can do well on a test doesn't make you a scientist. A
mm,
scientist is born. A scientist is a person who is naturally analytical. And most likely they are a C average person, not a B, not an A, but a C average person, because they're more balanced than a person who does well on tests. Um, because you do well on tests doesn't mean that you understand the material. It means that you've gone home or gone to the library and memorized it and you were able to regurgitate it on the exam. But it doesn't mean you understand it.
mm,
When you understand something, you can explain it in a manner that a person who doesn't understand it or have no training in that area will understand what you're saying. That's when you know that someone knows something, when they can make you know it and you got no training in it at all.
mm,
So that's first of all. Secondly, a person, an original person, a black person in his natural form, regardless of what he accomplishes, is naturally humble. The Caucasian is insecure. As males, as men, they are naturally insecure. So it's like with anything else. If I know that I'm inadequate or insufficient in a certain way, I'm going to do more to make myself more omnipresent. I'm going to do more to exacerbate my manliness and how smart I am. So if you go around the average Caucasian PhD, some kind of way, the subject matter of the discussion is always going to go back to what they're working on in the lab. I don't care where you are. Go to a wedding, go to a bar mitzvah, go to a funeral. If you engage in a conversation with them, some kind of way, the conversation is always going to make its way back to what they do. And they do that so that because they're really insecure and they want to make themselves appear much smarter than what they are. And anyone can do well on a test. And so the reason I think I'm humble, I believe I'm humble, is because I understand one simple fact. And that simple fact is I was born one day. And then at some point in the future, I will die. That means that the life and the world was turning when I was born. And the day that I die, I think it still will be turning. So whatever time I'm here is insignificant in the greater scheme of things. Once the African American learns what the rest of the world understands about life, and that is that you are a part of something that is greater than yourself. Being under the Caucasian for the last 467 years, we've taken on their mindset and their way. They are individualistic. They have a saying, this is a dog eat dog world. Well, your world is, but not ours. So we as African Americans, if we ever want to become Black people, then we have to remove that mentality from ourselves and begin to understand that you are part of something greater than you. It's called Black people. And then that is what humbles you, because you realize that you're not an individual. You're part of a whole.
Wow.
Crazy.
Bro, I can see
I'm sorry. You know where I'm about to go.
No, go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
You know where I'm about to go, and I know we're gonna get to the nitty gritty on things with interferon and other things, what have you. But I really need everyone listening and watching to take a moment and listen. Just rewind in your mind what brother said. He said, "If we," and he's used this term, and I've been listening to. I say it's a reason why he's using this term. If we as African Americans want to become Black people, stop right there. Meaning that there is a difference between true and divine Blackness and this moniker that many of us give ourselves and have adopted as African American. What is that difference? He mentioned it, a lot of it is in humility and understanding our interdependence with our brothers and sisters and really the whole of humanity around the world. And a thorough understanding of ourselves and our connection is going to allow us to make that transition. So
that's right.
We could go over that forever, but we want to stay on top. Thank you so much, Brother Victor. Good Lord, we got to clip that.
Absolutely. For sure. That's definitely one of the first clips. All right, family. Let's get into like the meat of the program. We're talking about, Brother Victor's experience with interferon alpha. We're going to be talking about his work in biotech, Nature's V, Life Sciences of Washington, the real bulk of tonight's program. But before we get into that, I'm going to play a short clip from the 1995 Million Man March. And this is Dr. Alim Muhammad talking about the medication that he was sent to investigate in Kenya called Kemron. So, family, take a look at this.
4 years ago, the Honorable Louis Farrakhan sent me to Kenya to find out the truth concerning Kemron. Everybody in America and Europe said that Kemron did not work. But for the past 4 years, Dr. Barbara Justice and myself have been using this medication, and we find that, in fact, it does work. To my left, we have Brother Demetrius X. I'm going to ask him a question. Brother Demetrius, in 1992, what was your HIV status?
Positive.
Brother Demetrius, in 1995, after having 3 years of treatment with alpha interferon, what is your HIV status?
Negative.
All praise is due to Allah.
Praise be to Allah. So, family, let's go ahead and backtrack a little bit. Well, not actually backtrack, but move forward from 1995. The reason I incorporated this clip into tonight's program is because Dr. Alim, and he's mentioned this on the program when he was back on the show. When he was on the show back in 2018, he talked about, you know, his journey with Cameron and how Brother Victor was incorporated into making sure that he can continue to use this molecule to treat his patients. And we also had Brother Victor on too. We did a two-part series on Blog Talk Radio called Legends of Cameron. That still is one of our most popular interviews on the Blog Talk Radio setting. But he talked about his relationship with Dr. Alim and how it came about. So we're going to do this again, but this time, everybody, you can see everybody on the screen. You know, it's a little bit more interactive. People can ask questions real time. Brother Victor, can you take us through your journey step by step? And it doesn't have to be super detailed, but kind of just, you know, take us through the timeline of how you began working with Dr. Alim, how you even found that, or how he even found out about you in DC, and then we're going to lead it straight into what we're working on now.
Sure. First of all, point of clarity. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that when a man makes a mistake in the public, then he should be corrected in the public.
Yes, sir.
But if he makes it in private, then you can correct him in private. Brother Demetrius was not treated with Kimron. Kimron was the product that came out of Australia, and he was not treated with Kimron. Brother Demetrius was treated with my product that I developed in November 1994. And because Dr. Alim could no longer get Kimron as of October 1994, he could not get Kimron, and many of his patients died and their health was failing. So in October 1994, I was doing cancer and graft versus host disease research at Howard University School of Medicine and Cancer Center. My phone rang one day in the lab, and it was Dr. Alim. And he was under duress and stress. And he said, "Brother, my patients are dying because FDA confiscated the Kimron at Dulles Airport. And the patients are dying and they're failing. Is there anything you can do?" So I said, "Well, brother, I don't know." I didn't tell him, but I had worked with interferon alpha, beta, and gamma during the time I was at the National Institutes of Health 3 or 4 years earlier, before that day. So I was familiar with interferon even before Dr. Coach started using it in Nairobi, who was the first person to use it in a human clinical environment. A black man in Kenya.
Right.
So if it hadn't been for Dr. Coach, none of these discussions would be taking place today, including mine.
Yes, sir.
So I ran and I grabbed my immunology book from graduate school, and I started reading. And I
Brother Victor,
found,
before you continue, I want to highlight something you just said. You said you grabbed your immunology book and started reading, right?
yes, sir.
So it's okay if a scientist is presented with a problem and they don't know necessarily the right way to go about it. It's okay to refer to a book to get further guidance, correct?
If you have any sense, that's the
Yes,
first
sir, Big
place.
T.
That's the first place you will go,
Right.
because there's no need in reinventing the wheel. And that's one of the reasons I have so much respect for Japanese culture. They invent very few things, but they take what you invent, take it apart, revamp it, find the faults in it, and then give you back a product that's 10 times better than what you produced.
Right.
So I didn't have to be intelligent and smart. I just went into my immunology textbook from graduate school, and I went and found interferon alpha. I saw some of the biomechanisms of interferon alpha, and uh, when I was at Johns Hopkins, Dr. Aleem had given me some of the Kimron lozenges. They were in pill form. And I found that they were inconsistent in international unit, in activity. Some of them had 50 international unit per tablet. Some had 150, some had 250, some had 300, some had 400. And when you're trying to dose something, you know that that's too broad of a range in activity to get a consistent uh, report from the patient. So I said, well, I can't do lozenges. I can't do pills. So I said, well, the most consistent and stable of all uh, pharmaceutics, meaning the formulation of something, is a liquid, because all
Hmm.
you have to do is invert the container a couple of times and it's in suspension. It's a heterogeneous, a homogeneous mixture at that point.
Right.
So, so I put that together with some guidance from the God, because certainly I wasn't that smart. And I put it in a bottle, took it to the clinic, 12 bottles on, and around November 14th, 2000, no, 2000, 1994. I took it to the clinic, gave it to Dr. Lean. I said, try this. Have them administer it intranasally, because the lozenges were taken orally and they got some efficacy, but I found that the receptors for interferon are in the nasal passage and in the back of the throat.
Right.
So if you put it in your nose and allow it to drain, then it hits the receptors in the nose, which gives it more, a broader range of activity. So he did that, and about 3 days later, my phone rang in the lab, and it was Dr. Lean. And I could hear a clamor in the background, people shouting and laughing and clapping like they were, uh, maybe I thought Cool in the Gang were having a concert in the clinic. And what he said is that the patients were recovering. They had gotten up. Some of them were walking where they were moribund,
Mm.
and nobody else was dying. So I jumped in my car and went over to the clinic, and sure enough, they were doing better.
Wow.
Then around March, April 1995, I received a phone call from the clinic, and they informed me that Demetrius X. Haskins had gotten his results from LabCorp, and his tests were, his viral load was the way LabCorp reported it for legal reasons. And, I guess I understand it, but they said no virus detected.
Mm.
See, and I went over and I got a copy of Brother Demetrius' LabCorp results. And sure enough, it said viral load not detectable. And that was the first zero deconversion of any person on the planet who had been diagnosed with AIDS or who was HIV positive. And by August 2002, 8 people taking my product had serial deconverted, meaning gone from being HIV positive to HIV negative.
Man, so
Praise be to Allah.
right, praise be to Allah. There's way more opportunities for the audience to be more interactive with this. So if you have questions, you have thoughts, please put it in the comment section. And we're going to get right back to this conversation after our final call break. So family, check it out.
Now you can get the same uncompromising truth you've come to expect from the Final Call newspaper on all your connected devices. Subscribe to the Final Call Digital Edition today. Go to subscribe.finalcalldigital.com.
Peace. This is Victer Muhammad, a future architect, and you're watching The STEM Files.
All right, that was the Final Call newspaper. And bro, what's this week's special edition all about?
Yes, sir. Of course. Yes, family. Again, for those who don't know, I'm sure you know by now if you're returning guests, members of the Nation of Islam, myself, Brother Victer, Brother Tariq. This is a man and his mission. Latest issue of the Final Call newspaper, a message dedicated to the resurrection of the Black man and woman in America and the world. This is a very special edition. Those who recognize and get the Final Call frequently, this is the same edition that was given during the birth anniversary week of the Honorable Minister Farrakhan, and he decided to bring it back and purchase himself 150,000 copies as gifts to the greater community for continued support and just as a love offering of information to our people. So we have the FOI, the members of the Fruit of Islam, of the Nation of Islam around the country and beyond, going out into the field, giving this beautiful gift to our people so they can learn more about not only him, the Nation of Islam, and what's going on around them. So a man and his mission. You want to follow at Final Call newspaper on all platforms. And to get your digital subscription, go to finalcalldigital.com. And if you are interested in getting this gift and other Final Call newspaper editions going forward, you can tap in with myself if you're in the Philadelphia area. Tap in with my brother Tariq in the Richmond, Virginia area, and inshallah, we will add you to our growing customer bases. Again, family, the Final Call newspaper, that good news you can use.
Yes, sir. Thank you, bro. We appreciate that. All right, fam, let's get back to it. We got a couple questions from the audience, but we're going to save those just for a little bit later. So getting back to the Interferon story, and just a question, and this is not meant to be an attack on anyone's character, anything like that. But I wanted to know, what do you think was the reason for, I mean, and he didn't have to name you per se in the address at the Million Man March, but was there a particular reason why your efforts to make this product for him, because he could no longer get Cameron, why do you think you weren't mentioned in that particular part of that address?
Well, Allah forbids us to judge one another because you cannot see what's in someone's heart. Only the individual and God knows what's in someone's heart.
Right.
But based on an individual's actions over a protracted period of time, you can draw a reasonable conclusion, and generally you will not be too far off from the actual fact. I don't know the reason Dr. Muhammad did that. I do know that he can be a selfish individual, and he is a person who likes to be in the forefront. I've never been a person who sought attention. I'm really a shy person, but you can't confuse my being shy with me doing my job. I do my job, but that doesn't mean that I like to be seen. I have a responsibility that was imposed on me by God. And I don't have to get permission from anyone to do what I do. Once I do my job, if you notice, I go back into seclusion, and I don't come out unless I'm asked to come out.
Yes, sir.
So, uh, uh, so I think that those are the two reasons that, for the most part, no one knew that I was the person that God had given the ability to produce the product, except when Dr. Muhammad needed me to explain something because he didn't understand biochemistry, immunology, molecular histochemistry, molecular biology, of cell biology. He didn't understand those things. So when there would be a particular meeting at the clinic where you had scientific professionals, he would call me or have Sister, I can't remember her name, but she was the RN who worked as the head person in the clinic during those days. He would have her call me and ask me to come to the meeting, and I would explain the biochemistry, the molecular biology, the immunology, the molecular histochemistry of interferon, or of what's going on inside the patient's body, how you can get around this particular infection, how you can treat this. Sister Yvonne, right? Sister Yvonne. Yeah, that was her.
Thank you,
Shout
And
out to
Sister
Sister
Patrice.
she
Patrice.
was a
Came through with the
gold
clutch.
mine.
Praise you to Allah.
She was a gold
Praise be
mine.
to Allah.
I mean, she was a gold mine. And she helped to save a lot of people's lives. And you just can't get around a woman who believes in you and believes in God.
That's
You
facts.
can't get around a woman like
That's
that.
facts.
That kind
That's
of
facts.
woman can help you build a ladder from here to the sun. You know,
Facts.
I mean,
Yes,
that's
sir.
real. So those were the only times where Dr. Aline would invite me, where people would see me when he needed something explained that he just didn't have the background to explain. And I never took offense to it because, again, I come from the Mississippi Delta. I was born on a plantation in Mississippi. I spent the first 10 years of my life on a literal plantation. I started working in the cotton fields when I finished the fourth grade. So I don't have a grandiose view of myself. So I don't need accolades and need to be seen. It doesn't bother me. So that's what I believe, Brother Tariq. That was the pathology behind that kind of relationship.
Yes, sir. And I appreciate that. Sometimes, regardless of how we see other people present themselves, sometimes Allah just has a way of protecting those who are behind the scenes and really doing that footwork. We're often taught, don't reveal all your hands,
Right.
whether we are purposely hiding them or not. It was good that you were not put out front in that particular sense, because Lord knows what type of entities would have come after you or prevented you from continuing to do your work. But as time goes on, you know, people will appreciate your efforts. Jabril and I appreciate your efforts, Dr. Alim's efforts, and everything that was done at that time period to make sure that people were well. Um, so just kind of fast forward a little bit, here we are with Life Sciences of Washington. Tell us more about that. How did that come about?
Well, Life Sciences of Washington was incorporated in 1998 at the height of development, the research and development of the supplement uh, that was used to help Brother Demetrius and 25,000, between 25,000 and 35,000 people around the country and the world. Uh, that's how many people have used that product since 1994. Um, the the use of the product and the success of it has pretty much been as a result of God, really, because what you all may not know or probably don't know because I never spoke it, but the the government was fully aware of who I am, and they've known since the early '90s because there was some people from the Middle East with whom I met in New York in 1996 because they wanted to present or push my product in 11 sub-Saharan African countries. And I met with them in New York. And one of the lawyers called FDA while I was sitting at his desk, and he had them on speakerphone. And he was questioning them about the supplement. And the person from FDA said this to him about me and the supplement. And this is a quote. They said, listen at this word now, when we are ready to permit a cure for AIDS, listen.
Wow.
When we are ready to permit a cure for AIDS, it will not be Victer Muhammad. It will be someone who has invested a lot more than he has, end quote. This is your government.
Wow.
So it's not that people didn't know about me. People did, and that's why they work so well to keep me suppressed. And the question that you may want to ask is, why is it that? Go ahead.
Oh, Jabril, you want to ask first?
No. I'm listening. You go ahead,
Okay.
beloved. I have nothing.
Yeah, I'm absorbing, bro. So you can continue, bro. So what do you think? What's the questioning in terms of your mind?
I'm sorry.
I said, what exactly would be the next line of questioning in terms of what they were doing?
They who?
When these individuals said that when they are ready to permit these countries to use this treatment.
No, it wasn't those countries. They were saying, the person was saying that whenever they permit a cure for AIDS, it wouldn't be me.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they were saying. They really can't control what products or drugs. My product is not a drug, it's not medicine. But whatever they can't control what goes on in another country. And the reason that did not go through was because of arrogance on the part of the people who were involved. Well, more so vanity. They killed the deal because, I won't go into that, but they killed the deal, not FDA, but the people who were working on it out of vanity.
Yes, sir. Well, we're gonna come to present day, and we're gonna talk about how this product has evolved and the different areas of medicine has been applied to. You said that your product is not a medication, it's not a medicine. What exactly is it? Let's break down the terminology. Why is it not a medicine? And then we'll go from there.
A medicine and a drug is something that belongs to the American Medical Association. The American population has to begin to educate themselves, not go to college, not attend a university, but educate yourself. You don't have to go to college or university to be educated. In fact, most people who attend college and university are not educated. They have a degree and they are taught how to function on a job, but they're not educated. Educate comes from the Greek word edukare, which means to extract from. So when the teacher in undergrad, master's degree, PhD, writes something on the board Monday through Thursday, you copy it down in your notebook. Then on Friday, they give you a test or a quiz. You regurgitate what they gave you and you put it on the paper, and then you get an A. But what have you extracted? Nothing. That's why in the Bible, they said that how come this man, speaking of the Jesus figure, having not letters, is learned?
The teacher.
He didn't say he had gone to college. He said he was learned. And Prophet Muhammad made this statement: one learned man is harder on the devil than 1,000 ignorant worshipers. Well, why do they keep using this word learned? Why didn't they say educated? Why is it that God, of all the prophets that he sent over the last 6,000 years, from Genesis in the Bible to the last surah of the Quran, that covers 6,000 years, why is it that not one of those prophets or messengers was ever an educated person? Why is that? Well, they didn't have colleges. That's a lie. Al Azhar in Cairo is 15,000 years old. 6,000 years ago, Abraham was on the earth. 2,023 years ago, Jesus or Isa was on the earth. 1,400 years ago, Prophet Muhammad was on the earth. None of them went to a college or a university, but they confounded all the educated people that were around during their contemporary times. So the American population has to begin to educate themselves so that they can quit being victims. 50 years ago, America went through a process of dumbing down her people. 45 years ago, America was #1 in the world in education. Now, I don't even think it ranks out of 272 countries that are recognized by the United Nations. So why is that? America was converted into a 2,000 by 3,000 mile supermarket. So all of the countries around the world produce crap, and they put it on ships and airplanes and send it to America, and Americans buy it. So you go in the average woman's closet in America, particularly African American, and she's got 125 pairs of shoes in her closet. Why? You go to her bedroom and she's got a stair climber or a treadmill in the bedroom that still got the plastic on it when she bought it from Sears. And she hangs her clothes on it at night. Then she'll go to the airport and get on the escalator. Why? Because we are trained by using the same research from Dr. Pavlov, stimulation and response. So we see a commercial on the internet, on television, wherever, and we go out and purchase what we just saw, and we don't even know why. So this is what's going on, Brother Tariq, Brother Jabril. And the American people are always going to be victims of medicine, law, and everything else, so long as you're not educated. So if you want to understand the nomenclature behind the interferon product, it is a supplement, a dietary nutritional supplement. The class that I created and placed my product under is something that I developed called bionutraceuticals. Bio meaning it comes from life. Bionutraceuticals. You're not going to find it in the dictionary because I made it up. So, and I place all of my products under that label. It's not a drug. It's not a medicine. A drug is something that a doctor has to write a script for. So you don't need a script for my product.
Yes, sir. And for those who are watching, Can you explain the significance behind labeling something a nutraceutical versus a medicine so that the FDA is not on your behind?
Well, the only time the FDA gets involved is when you make a claim about your product. Right. It's when you say it will cure this, it will cure that. Then now you're making a claim. And the thing that brings the FDA involved is that if you sell that product to someone and you told them it will cure this and it doesn't, that person will then call FDA and report you because now you've sold them something that was supposed to cure them and it didn't. Now FDA has to come out and investigate because now you are practicing medicine without a license because you told the person that this would cure them. Well, I make no such claims about my product. I tell you to go to an immunology book and read what the scientists have said that this product will do. I don't have to make any claims. Yes, the whole name interferon alpha comes from the research and the investigation and discovery in the Western world. Always remember when you hear anyone say this is the first, always remember that's in the Western world. Nothing that has taken place in the last 6,000 years is the first of anything. Tesla and all those cats and Ben Franklin did not discover electricity. If you go to the Library of Congress and read some of the books written by Caucasian authors, Arabia, Mecca, had electrical lights 1,000 years ago while Europe was still in the dark. There were electric lights on the street in Arabia 1,000 years ago. So I was reading recently, I think today or yesterday, and they said this black woman is the first black woman or the first African-American female to be the commander of some military something in the Western world. Nothing that happens today is the first of anything. And if a black person does something in America, they are not the first to do it in the world. They are the first to do it in the Western world. So interferon gets its name from a 1955 discovery by Dr. Cantel, where he found that this particular protein interferes with two enzymes that are necessary for a virus to replicate itself. And that includes a retrovirus. They require two enzymes. And the interferon interferes with, it prohibits those enzymes from duplicating the virus. So the life cycle of a virus is probably 24 hours or 48 hours. So when that virus dies, it doesn't make another copy of itself. So long as the interferon is present, then after some time, the viral load continues to fall until it's no longer in existence. But I think that what someone did some years ago after this discovery was that they made genetically engineered viruses or bacteria or some other pathogen to shut down the production of interferon in the T cells in the human body. That way, now, anytime you get an infection, instead of the interferon being secreted by the T cells or released by the T cells to go and kill that infection, it doesn't do it. So now you can contract a common cold. You can get the flu. You can get Ebola, SARS, HIV, and all of the other viruses that attack the human body. Why is it that animals don't readily get it unless those animals are under the care of human beings? Right. See, and the more you read on your own, the more your brain expands. the more your horizon expands. And Americans, particularly African Americans, you have to start traveling outside America so that you can broaden your horizon and see what the earth and the world actually has to offer. Your view is myopic.
Teaching.
And it's narrow. And that's why it's so easy to deceive you. And then they put a comedian in front of you to keep you appeased and happy, and they give you Kevin Hart and Steve Harvey and Jamie Foxx and all of these people. They keep you entertained and keep your senses and your intellect dulled, and you never ever began to think. A thinking person is a very dangerous person to a democracy. A thinking person.
That was a beautiful. A thinking person is a very dangerous person to a democracy.
That's right.
Wow.
If you understand what is a democracy, then that makes sense. Right. But unfortunately, most people don't know. You got the definition that your 12th grade civics teacher gave you for democracy, but that's not what a democracy is.
That's right. That's right. And you said something very key, about interferon. I just wanted to kind of clear some words. Interferon interferes with two enzymes necessary to duplicate a virus. For those who are watching and not clear on what enzymes are, these are molecules that help speed up or cause a chemical reaction. Without these chemical reactions, the whatever it's responsible for will not carry out its function. So interferon is attacking that process before it even starts. So we appreciate the breakdown of interferon and what it does. So we have a question from the audience. We're going to get to Brother Eric's question in a minute. What is the product that you have? What is it called, and what brand do you use to govern that particular product?
The product was given the nomenclature ImmunoBoost 100. It was given that because over the last 29 years, it's had several names. Dacaron, because I wanted to honor Dr. Davy Koich, a person whose intellect started all of this. He's the first person to use interferon in a clinical environment. He used lozenges, which biomechanically weren't as stable, but still, Allah says in the Bible, honor your mother and your father that your days be long. One of the reasons you fail in life is that you don't respect the people who gave you birth in a particular thing. I wouldn't have the understanding of the product if it were not for the work of Dr. Koich. So I respect Dr. Koich and pay him homage because I wouldn't have anything were it not for him. So my product is called ImmunoBoost 100, and that speaks for itself. The 100, I don't know where it came from. It came to me, and that's what I called it. That's the best that I can tell you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And the IB100, right? We have another product that's out there being sold right now or being distributed. And and this is just a disclaimer, I have no preference towards either one, IB100 or the product I'm about to mention. But I wanted to get your thoughts on Paximune. So Paximune is a rival product, not necessarily the same thing, but I wanted to get your thoughts on it. What are the key differences between your product and Paximune that you've read or that you studied in human cases?
I don't know what is Paximune. I've never done any investigation on it. The people who work with me, they know more about Paximune than I do. I know the man who developed Paximune. He's a veterinarian, And I have about a 30-year relationship with him. He and I have similar backgrounds. He is a veterinarian and a PhD, and I'm an animal scientist, and I pursued my PhD. I didn't complete it because I didn't see a need for it. So our backgrounds are very similar. We dealt with beef cattle, and we dealt with treating beef cattle, and we have a lot of experience with that. But in terms of what is Paximune, I don't know what it is. And the people who market it have been kind of coy as far as what I've seen and heard about what is Paximune and what's in it. So I can't speak on what's in it. Yeah, I don't know.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And one of the things that's labeled, I'm just gonna say this. I'm just gonna point something out to you, bro. I'm gonna let you eat real quick. Um, One of the things that's pointed out on the bottle, it says bovine protein. So I would assume that your product is not made from bovine protein. It's made from human protein. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So can you kind of shed some light on, and not, this is beyond Paximune now. So now we're talking about uh, how certain products are made and how they're produced. So with yours being made from human protein and theirs being made from bovine, what what exactly is going on here? Like why is it, when it says made from protein, this particular protein, what exactly do they mean by that? Or do you mean by that with your product?
Again, if their product is made from bovine proteins, I would assume that someone either took a natural protein or a recombinant protein and put it in a solution to be used. Bovine means cow. So it's the family of cow, a family that to which cows belong. And there is homogeneity between species where you can take interferon from a chicken and purify it, give it to a human, and you'd get very similar immune response as if you had taken it from a human, because of the homogeneity of the protein. See, God didn't waste a whole lot of time making things different. If you study biology, whether it's plant or animal, you'll find that everything is closely related. In fact, if you look in Genesis in the Bible, it says of Eve, she is called Eve because she is the mother of all living things. Now, what does that mean? It means that in the 90s or the 80s, there was a skeleton of a Black woman, I think found in Kenya. And she was on the cover of Time magazine around 1985, 1988. And they called her Lucy. And they reported that when they tested her mitochondrial DNA, they found that everything that lived could be traced back to her. That's the same thing that's recited in Genesis in the Bible. She is called Eve because she is the mother of all living things. Well, the Black woman, the original woman, the Black woman is literally, now this is not a figure of speech.
Right.
She is literally the mother of all living things, plant and animal. So if you take a human cell, take the DNA from a human cell, all you have to do is rearrange the proteins and you can make a cow, the same DNA from a Black woman, and you can make a tomato. It's just the arrangement of the proteins and how you take the nucleus and cause the nucleus to to generate these protein sequences, and that makes a bear, that makes a rabbit, that makes an elephant, that makes a sperm whale, the largest living thing on the earth, that makes a prion, the smallest living thing on the earth. But they all take DNA from the Black woman. Plants come from Black women. So your watermelon came from a Black woman. Everything that lives came from the DNA of a Black woman. When you test for heterogeneity, when you test for paternity, when you test for heredity, you don't go to the male, you go to the female, because the female contains eggs. And in the egg is mitochondrial DNA. And what mitochondrial DNA does, it records heredity, your family line. So this is why you have to use the Black woman to trace the lineage of everything that lives, because everything that lives is recorded through mitochondrial DNA. So the next time a Black woman decides that she wants to be frivolous with herself, frivolous with her DNA, frivolous with her eggs, she should remember that everything on the earth is her child, her offspring. All the human beings, all the animals, all the plants on the earth come from the Black woman.
Yes, sir.
Praise be to Allah. I think that's a perfect segue. And again, we have another question, but one of the topics I think would be awesome to get into. And first off, family, please, for those tapped in, please can we get some black fists in the comments if you've been enjoying tonight's segment. Our brother's been giving us everything of himself, going into awesome topics and drilling down and unpacking terms and talking about his research, his past, and being very candid with us, which we do thoroughly appreciate. And we are live right now, family, at the STEM Files on YouTube, live at the STEM Files FB on Facebook. Make sure to follow us at Tariq Cardat at Jabrilia_engineer on Instagram, and at the STEM Files, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. If you like the content, please continue to support, share. We do this because we love STEM, but we also love our people, and we want to make sure that our people are, I'm using the term you use, Brother Victor, truly educated, whether they pursued matriculation through school or not. We try to give that good news and that good truth you can use and really highlight our people. So thank you. A topic I wanted to kind of get into as we move to the close of tonight is, you talked about the woman, the Black woman in particular, really being the mother of civilization, but the mother of all living things. We also know that, historically, against both our people and other peoples throughout time, science has been used in a way to do harm and to establish very negative and untrue stereotypes on certain groups of people. So with that, how do you reconcile the comment or the question, is science racist, right? Is it not? And if not, how should we properly understand science in its purest essence?
Nothing that exists is bad or good. Everything that exists was created with a nature. It's not bad, it's not good. Water is wet. If you are thirsty, you drink it, it quenches your thirst. If a person who has ill intent takes water and pour it up your nose, then it drowns you.
Mm-hmm.
But the water didn't do it. Water is water. It's neither good nor bad. Snake, a rattlesnake or a cobra, a puff adder, they're not bad, they're not good. They do what they're created to do. If you're bitten by a snake, the snake didn't do it. I mean, it has a nature where it will try to flee from you. But if it can't flee from you, it will bite you.
Will attack. That's
But
right.
is the snake bad? No. How can you call the snake bad when the snake didn't make itself?
Good teacher.
It has a nature just like you do. And you have a nature. A woman has a nature. A man has a nature. One of the reasons the divorce rate in the African American community is the highest on the planet Earth is because you don't know the nature of the woman and the woman doesn't know your nature. So you come together to try to make something a success called a marriage, and you fail at it, not because she's bad or not because you're bad, but you've got something that you don't understand. You don't know the nature of it. And she's got something that she doesn't understand, nor does she know the nature of it. So you'll never be successful until you learn what you got. She's not bad, and neither are you. It's the same if you've always driven Fords and you go and get an S-Class Mercedes or a 7 Series BMW. What are you going to do with it once you get it? You're going to tear it up. Why? Because you don't know the nature of it. The engineers that designed the S-Class Mercedes, the engineer that designed the 7 Series BMW, it's not the same as the one that designed the Ford. So if you don't know the nature that those men design those cars, you're going to tear them up. Not because you're bad, not because the car is bad, but because you have possession of something of whose nature you do not know. So I forgot the question you asked me.
Oh, no, but it's in that comment, you were also answering it. So it was, if someone were to say, based on science being racist, that's the construct.
No. Okay, science is misused. The term science is misused. You hear people say, well, you have to go with the science because the science is right. That's not true. Science is not right. Science is not wrong. The definition of science is the accumulation of data on a particular subject. That's all science is. So if you, Tariq, goes out into a field with a notebook and a pen, you start recording what you see. You're gathering data. That data is called science. Now, before you can say that it's true, you must apply the truth to it. And the only truth in the universe that exists is mathematics.
That's right.
So once you apply math to science and it comes up 100%, then you can say that it's the truth. But it's not the science. It is the fact that you've applied the math to it, and the math verifies the efficacy of it.
Go ahead and teach Islam. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So here's the statement that explains what I just said. Everything, please listen to this now. Everything that is to be so must be proven mathematically. If you cannot prove it mathematically, then you cannot say it's so. Listen to that before you comment or before you say anything. Because if you listen to it, there is nothing to say.
Can you repeat it one more time, Brother Victor? Just one more time.
Anything that is to be so must be proven mathematically. If it cannot be proven mathematically, then you cannot say it's so. It doesn't say it's not so. It just says you can't say it is. Not if you can't prove it. So if we apply this to our daily lives, you'll find that you won't talk as much. If you apply that to every aspect of your life, your relationships, your marriage, your business, your children, if you apply that one principle, you'll find that you'll be successful 99% of the time in everything that you do.
I needed to hear that, beloved. Personally, I definitely
Everybody
needed
needs to hear that, brother.
Yes, sir.
Especially
Yes, sir.
the African American community, because we must begin the process of coming out of being African Americans and returning to being Black people. See, the two are not synonymous. Senate, African American and Black are not synonymous.
Yes, sir.
African American is an entity that was created in the Caucasian Western world from 1555 up to this day that had a particular utility. A Black person is a civilized human being, one having culture, refinement, one having knowledge of all of the sciences of life. A Black man can sit in the seat of God in the absence of God. An African American can't do that.
Right, right. Yes, sir. Well, family, we're at that almost we almost at an hour and a half, and that definitely don't feel like an hour and a half.
Right.
Before we go to the conclusion of the program, I just wanted to throw up a picture real quick. This is Dr. David Koresh, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and he's uh and you said early on in the program that he is, hold on for one second, that he is one of the people that you admired and looked up to, and you wanted to honor him by naming your supplement after him in the beginning. Um, what else has, just speak on the importance of it, because this is how I feel about you. This is how I feel about Dr. David Koresh. The same way you feel about him. Looking at him as somebody who has paved the way for you in a sense. What are some of the things that you would say to him right now at this stage in your life?
I used to talk to Dr. Koresh on a regular basis back in the 90s up until the early 2000s. What you may not know is that Dr.
Trust me, I
Koresh
don't.
Dr. Koresh was set up, and he was accused of some improprieties in Kenya. And now, according to what a former employee of the Kenyan Medical Research Institute told me when I was in Nairobi and Mombasa, Kenya, and they worked at the KIMRI, the Kenyan Medical Research Institute, where Dr. Koresh was the director. That's where the word Kimron originated, from the acronym for Dr. Koresh Institute, the Kenyan Medical Research Institute in Nairobi. Somebody set up Dr. Koresh, and now Walter Reed Hospital out of Washington, D.C. has taken control over the Kenyan Medical Research Institute. Dr. Koresh has been removed.
Wow.
You know.
Yes, sir.
So, but as African Americans and Africans, we're pretty much the same people, you know, because we've been bitten by the same snake, and we suffer from the envenomation of the same snake. So whether you're from Jackson Hole, Wyoming, or an African American, or if you're from Democratic Republic of Congo, you'll find that there are gross similarities between the two people, because we've all been bitten by the same snake. That's so right. Dr. Koresh, all the work that he did, the man was maligned, lied on, and removed from his post, and nobody did anything. See, and the African American must begin to act more as a family and not as individuals. And when one of us is attacked, then the whole population must come and surround that person.
That's right.
And if the person is wrong, then we deal with that in-house later on. But we must come to their defense. And if you want to stop police brutality and all of these things, you stop it by showing that you are part of a family, and that if you attack one of us, then you attack all of us. And marching and protesting, I don't think that that's the best solution. Nobody's afraid of you marching and protesting when you're burning down your own buildings and your own communities. Who cares? What impact are you hurting?
Right.
People fear organization and intellect. People don't fear chaos. That sword that's in your mouth is far more dangerous than all the bombs and guns and marching that you can do. One intelligent man,
that's right.
one
Our
wise
unity.
man is more powerful than all of that.
That's right. Honorable Elijah Muhammad said our unity is more powerful than an atomic bomb. Absolutely. All right, family. We are coming up on the end of the program. First and foremost, I want to thank Brother Victor for gracing us and gracing the STEM Files with his presence. Like I was saying before, we did a 2-part series on Blog Talk Radio called The Legends of Qumran. And it was about Brother Victor's story with Interferon and helping Dr. Aline with his patients and what he's doing now. Also, matter of fact, let's go back to that question Brother Eric had about FAMU. He wanted us to ask you about your tenure at FAMU, and he also wants to know about the state of biomedicine in the future. So tell us more about that.
Well, I always wanted to return to the South after I had accomplished everything that I wanted to accomplish in the Northeast. And in 2002, January, I knew that it was time for me to leave Washington, D.C. So I applied for a scientist position at Tuskegee, at Southern University in Baton Rouge, and Florida A&M University, because I wanted to be on the Gulf Coast. I'm originally from Mississippi, which borders the Gulf Coast, and I wanted to get back there. I received an interview at Tuskegee and FAMU. Tuskegee wanted to hire me, but they said that I was asking for too much money. So I said, well, there's nothing I can do about that. Right. FAMU,
I ain't going down.
Nah. FAMU made me an offer, which was half of what I could have made in DC. Plus, I had to agree to take on 4 different jobs for half the salary that I was getting in DC. So I went to FAMU, and what I found there was a level of buffoonery that I had never seen before in my life. I did the best that I could to bring about change, and I had to make a conscious decision, because there is no such thing as being neutral. There is no such thing in nature as neutral. You're either part of the solution or you're part of the problem. And I wasn't going to be part of the problem. And I saw that trying to help a place like that was an exercise in futility. So I decided to resign in November 2006. I decided to resign. So I did. I don't know particularly what Brother Eric is seeking, but that's pretty much my job at FAMU. I was a professor. I taught courses in reproductive biology, bioinformatics. I designed a 2-year program in bioinformatics. One of my jobs was to develop a genetically engineered goat by using the weight gain protein and incorporating that into the genetics of the goat. And I was also responsible for designing, building, populating, and managing an Oracle 9i web-based database. When powerful Caucasian people in Florida heard about what I was brought there to do, they removed the dean who brought me there and replaced him with another dean. And that dean killed every program that I was brought there to create, because I later learned that first of all, the position that I was brought there under did not exist in the state of Florida. I had to write my own position description before I could be hired, because it didn't exist in Florida. It wasn't at FSU, it wasn't at UF, it wasn't at Miami. So I had to write it. And I still have the email, if someone wants to challenge it, I still have the email where I sent the dean the position description after I wrote it. I sent it to the dean. He gave it to the office manager. She wrote it up, submitted it to personnel, and they created the job. Then I applied to the job that I had written a position description for. So, and when I questioned the dean, the new dean, I said, "Dean, why did you kill all of those programs?" I said, "Do you know what it would have done for this university and what it would have done for Black people in Florida and the world?" He said, "Victor, this is a quote, that's pie in the sky stuff. You have to leave that for UF and Florida State, i.e. an HBCU cannot do stuff like that. White people are the only people who can do stuff like that." That's what he intended when he said, that's pie in the sky. A black people developing genetically engineered animals? We can't do that. What's wrong with you, Victor? See, but I had already done it at NIH. I developed genetically engineered mice and rats at NIH. So you couldn't tell me what couldn't be done. Now, what was the other part of the question?
Oh, that was, and then the last part was, hold on for 1 second. And
the
biomedicine in the future.
yeah.
What's the state of
Yeah.
biomedicine in the future? And just before you add to that, I just want to bear witness to the BS that is in HBCU research departments. It can be very frustrating and annoying. I've had research projects scrapped because they wanted me to do something else, and that's a long story. But let's get back to the question. And biomedicine in the future, what, just based on what you're doing with HSV, life sciences in Washington, how do you see this particular field advancing in the future, just from your contribution?
Well, point blank, and I've made this assessment and the assertion over the last couple of years. Medicine, as we know it, has ended. Medicine, as we know it, has run its course. And there's nothing that can be done about that. When the Caucasian overtook what is now Egypt, and they began to promote this new form of treatment of the human being called medicine, they knew that it would have a pentacle and then it would begin to decline. And so what you're witnessing today is the decline of Western medicine. Now, if medicine is declining, and it is, and it has reached its end, and it has, then there has to be something to replace it. And so what we're doing now, what you see Victer Muhammad being used to do is to introduce this new system of health that does not include medicine. Medicine is toxic. It kills more people each year than any disease does, and it has to be replaced. So when you look in the Bible, God said, behold, I make all things new. Why is it necessary for God to make all things new at the end of this current world? Because none of it is worth taking into the kingdom or the world that is coming into existence right now. So everyone is not everyone, but most people are standing and looking over the horizon for the world, this new world order, and it's already being entered. What I'm doing is part of that new world order. See, we think God to be this mystery or that he does things through magic. Not true. God works through men. So many of us, the Muslims, we expect God to come down out of the stratosphere in the mother plane and the door of the mother plane open, and then God is just going to release all these new things on the earth. No, people are going to be inspired by God to bring these things into existence. God doesn't work with magic. God works by his own natural laws. So anything that comes on the planet has to come through one of those natural laws. So Victer Muhammad was born August 11th, 1964, and taken through a system of changes for about 30 years. It took about 30 years, 45 years to develop this entity called Victer Muhammad. Now I'm carrying out what I was brought on the earth to do. And that's why many things that you'll hear me say and do, you can't find it in a book anywhere, but you can't prove it wrong. You can't call me a lie. I wouldn't do that if I were you, especially not in front of me. And that's why people avoid me. People who are supposed to be powerful and smart, but they avoid me. They'll speak behind my back, but they won't make accusations in my presence. And if I say to them, well, put it in writing, they won't respond. So that's what's going on. Medicine is done.
Yes, sir. Well, I could definitely bear witness to your work, beloved, and what you are meant to do, and how you've been able to use Life Sciences of Washington and Nature's Beat to really make a new reality for our people. Um, how can people, and I also put the link in the description if you're watching on YouTube, and I put the link in the caption if you're watching on Facebook. How can people learn more about Nature's V and get to be of support to your cause?
Well, one of the things that humanity needs, and I really want the people to listen to this, is to develop laboratories and R&D facilities that are under our control. Not a person who's popular, but a person who has the actual skills, knowledge, and abilities. In the African American community, among the Muslims, among the Christians, we like to put people in positions who are popular or who are part of our network. They don't necessarily have the requisite skills to do what you put them in a position to do. And the fact that they don't generate anything is proof of that. Please listen to me. So humanity, the population of the planet Earth, all 8 billion people, including Caucasians, we can't leave them out. We can't do to them what they've done to us, because then we're no better. So if you are a servant of God, then that means that you must serve everyone. Even the evil people, they still have to be served. So my goal, and I'm asking all of you, help me to build a R&D facility, a laboratory, so that we can develop vaccines that you can trust. In a lecture I did about 3 years ago, I told you vaccines in their development, in their ideology, are not bad. Vaccines are not bad, but I'm not taking any vaccine that I didn't make. And I'm talking about me personally. I'm not taking a vaccine that I didn't make. There is no way I'm going to allow anyone to put a needle in my arm or one of my children's arms and I didn't make it, because I don't trust anyone. And how you can trust people who have a history of killing you? Tuskegee experiment, the smallpox blankets for the Indians, and Ebola in Africa, and all of these SARS diseases in Africa. Come on. And you still at this day allowing people to make something for you to put in your mouth or in your arm? So I'm saying to humanity, it would be better for you if you supported someone like me. Because when I left graduate school in 1988, God made sure I had all the money, all the cars, and all the things of appetites that a man could have. I've had the best cars. I've had the best homes. I wear the best suits, the best shoes. I've had all of that, and I had it in my 20s. So at 58 now, the highlight of my day is working all day and then coming in about 4 o'clock, 4:30, breaking my fast with some yogurt or a piece of fruit, eating 4 pieces of wheat toast, a bowl of navy bean soup, brown rice, broccoli, cauliflower, some blackened salmon, eating 14-ounce Haagen-Dazs rum raisin ice cream, drinking some apple juice, and then topping it off with some water. I mean, that's the highlight of my day.
Hey,
that's
shoot.
That's what makes me happy.
I ain't mad at it.
Because I've had everything else. So when I tell you that supporting me, I can develop antibodies that will effectively treat infections. I can develop vaccines. I used to make vaccines in labs in the Maryland, DC area, Northern Virginia. I used to make antibodies. I know the effectiveness of antibodies. I used to make them with rabbits. You know, I can make antivenom from snake bites and spider bites and whatnot. So I don't know how we got there, but whatever.
Oh no, you're building, brother. It's all good. Yes, sir. But we want to approach the end of the program, and I just wanted to put something out there too. Jabril and I have a research and development company as well, and one of the things that we pride ourselves in with OMN, with Original Man Scientific, is not only producing those labs you're talking about, but also being able to develop research programs that are fit to properly serve the people in their needs. So, Jabril, do you want to add to that?
No, as you were talking, well, only I will add, as you were talking, as we spoke about Original Man Scientific, you talked about your desire for laboratories and research and development centers that are owned by us, and those of us who are qualified have the desire to help our people and the world in the way of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, in the way that the Honorable Mr. Farrakhan would desire us to do so. that is what we're striving to accomplish as, Original Man Scientific, and really try to align ourselves with those who have more experience and are able to help guide and mentor us in a way that we can achieve that reality, because we know it's needed. When we're trying to develop and protect IP, we're trying to develop and protect things that are of substance and are able to advance society in a very holistic and, what's the word I'm looking for? Positive manner. We're going to need that. So, we're completely on board, and I'm glad that you mentioned that. I think it's a beautiful way for us to, close tonight's segment, and kind of give us something to work towards in the very near future.
Definitely. Yeah, we all, just to echo my brother's words, we all need each other. This is not a thing that, we have one group over here and one group over there, and everybody's all doing their own thing. Now, of course, there are projects that we all may be working on as individual groups, but there's always something that we can all be coming together to do as one. So that's why, Brother Victor, you will always have a spot here on the STEM Files. Matter of fact, whenever you release a new product, I want us to be the first place outside of your own platform that you come and tell us about that product. And matter of fact, your products, there was a comment I completely forgot about. And here it is. He asked, "Do these products deal with parasites and cancer?" Now, you've targeted a few other things outside of COVID-19, or whatever it is that you're dealing with at the time. You've dealt with things like lupus, um, and help me out here. What other diseases have you looked at with your products?
Over the last 29 years, I don't think that there is a disease for which we have not provided service for, because people have come to us with everything that for which you could possibly be diagnosed. Now, we don't diagnose. We have some doctors, MDs, who work with us. I'm not one, but other people do, and are. But everything that you can think of, people have come to us with it. And to date, after 29 years, there is not one single malady that has been brought to us where the person did not receive benefit. Not one. And to answer the person's question, yes, our products have shown based on the person who took it report back to us, and their medical doctor, their oncologist, has shown where the person took the supplement, went back to their doctor 3 months later, and the cancer was gone. That is a fact. And if you go to YouTube and see some of the videos, you'll hear the patient say it themselves. Not my patient, because I'm not a clinician. But when they came to us, they were the patient of their primary care physician, their urologist, or their oncologist in regard to cancer.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And then also, you have the literature and the manuscripts and stuff like that as well. Correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And
All
where
of
can
our
people find
products,
some of that? Hmm.
sir,
I was just saying, where can people read some of that literature?
on natures-v.com, healthatitsbest.com, and novoimmune.org, novoimmune.org.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, family, you heard it from my brother, and I pray that answered your question. That was from Brother Ian Muhammad. Um, we are almost at 2 hours. This is the longest episode we've ever done in this particular format. We want to first again thank Brother Victor for his time. But like I said before, this platform is for those of us in our community who are working diligently in science, technology, engineering, mathematics in the Black and Brown community. Whatever it is that you want to share with the world, like I said, new product release, new research, uh, you and a colleague are working on something that could benefit, humanity. Please come through on the STEM Files. This is your platform, and of course, in addition to your own platform. Um, Jabril, who's our next guest? Who do we have coming up on the STEM Files?
Yes, sir. So our next guest, family, is going to be an engineer by the name of Kevin Champion. We can see Meme Cubed Engineering in the background. So inshallah, he'll be talking some more of my language next week as we get into some more of the engineering sciences. So we're definitely excited for our brother as he graces the platform. And like we say all the time, we do our best to bring to you all the best and brightest in science, technology, engineering, mathematics, but not just those who have a certain intellect or work in a specific field, but those who have a desire to help their people and have a strong desire to educate and give of themselves. So look forward to our brother Kevin Champion to really enlighten and inspire us next week on the STEM Files.
Absolutely. And I was introduced to brother Champion, brother Kevin, back in 2017. Brother down in Muhammad's Mosque number 15 by the name of Brother Randolph had introduced me to him, and I've been trying to get him on the STEM Files for going on 6 years now, and we finally been able to do it. He's very, 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 his business acumen when it comes to engineering and applying engineering to business is insane. So we're going to be building with him, and that's going to be our June 1st installment of the STEM File. So please come back at 8 o'clock Eastern time, same place, same platform, YouTube, Facebook, at the STEM Files family. Not Jabril, Brother Victor. Any last words before we conclude?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, family. Jabril, you want to close this out?
Yes, sir. Family, we have been live at the STEM Files on YouTube, at the STEM Files FB on Facebook. We appreciate you all for constantly tapping in with us and giving your time and sharing with your family and friends and colleagues. We do this because our sincere desire is to let everyone know that not only are we Black in STEM, but if we really understand and go to the root of things, Black is STEM. Please follow us at Tariq Cardiac, at Jabrillion_engineer on Instagram. Follow us at the STEM Files, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. We are super thankful to Brother Victor for again gracing us with his presence and being so candid. We ask you all continue to tap in, continue to share, continue to support, and DM us with any questions, comments, concerns, people you like to see, topics you like to see discussed, things you'd like to see added to the platform. We take a lot of things under counsel. We think about it as we want to give the best product to you all. Until next time, family, remember, we're here to inspire, to educate, and as always, Black is STEM. Until next time, family, peace, love. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Believe in these false prophets, I say I bet he lying. No football, New York City Giants. Girl dad, rest in peace to Kobe Bryant. When we teaching our babies, we teach them heavy science. Heavy science. Heavy science. When we teaching our women, we teach them heavy science. Heavy science. Heavy science. When we teach men, we teach them heavy